Here we go. I'm back from Dragoncon. Actually, I got back 2 days ago, and kind of in a situation where I didn't get to drive yesterday because it was like we got the tropical storm that's now a hurricane, so I wasn't in my car and I really wasn't able to say anything. Or I mean, you know, I ain't sitting in my car in my driveway, so I do want to drive when I'm doing this. But Dragoncon was good, no doubt. It was a lot to unpack, and I actually didn't do the full Dragoncon. I did half. I just flew in Saturday and left Sunday evening. Saturday morning. It's an hour flight for us, hour and a half, hour and 20 minutes from, whoa, that's bouncy, from, from Florida, so I can do it and get there. I shout outs to my man Jarvis Sheffield and the crew. He had about 4 or 5 guys working with him, and his wife, handling this new track called the Diversity track. So it was good. I jumped on 2 panels. I was on a bunch of panels, but like I was telling you, I wasn't kind of feeling the interpretation that Dragoncon probably put him under in order to be diverse. Diversity means a lot in the dictionary, but the colloquial, the regular term of diversity is, you know, we want racial diversity. We need some black people in the stories. We need some Latino peoples in the stories. We need Asians, you know, and then of course we want some women, you know what I'm saying? And then of course sexual preference diversity, LBGT, that is another element. But then when you start to add all of those elements, man, it becomes real watered. So by the time I could get on panels, I'm thinking we're doing a whole lot, but you know, there's a lot of other people that have to be respected. He did a good job of that, but I would still want a black panel. I mean, a black track, you know what I'm saying? That was that. I jumped on writing a female character, and it was real interesting. There was a sister on there. I'm gonna mess her name up, but I'm gonna find it. I'll put it in the description, or I'll tag her. And I don't even remember her books. Golly. But we friends on Twitter, and I already connected. She was in Black Panther, and she said she only reads female writers, right? And I said, well, you know, 3 of my books have female characters. 3 of my 5, 4 of my 7, 3 of my 4 sci-fi novels do. You know, Welcome to Boss Lady's Planet, Rashida, and of course a Gold Digger Killer, but you can also count in Negro Mountain, because it's, you know, the girl is the star, you know what I'm saying? So that's almost like a little girl. So anyway, we were talking, and that panel was good. One of the things that I said is, you know, male characters are very one-dimensional. You know, they're not as cerebral or emotional or human as female characters, and I think that's the lure that men like me who write female characters are. I'm not a Mike Tyson in life. You know what I'm saying? I'm not The Rock. You know what I'm saying? So I can't solve every problem with my physical might. Now, I told him, I said, but to be real honest, most guys aren't. I mean, if guys could solve all their problems with physical might, they wouldn't have invented the gun. And women didn't invent the gun. Men did. And it wasn't Mike Tyson, Dwayne Johnson type men. It was scared punks, because a gun is not for somebody who feels they can beat you. It's for somebody who feels they need something extra to beat you. It's not just because, you know, and it's a little bit more efficient, you know what I'm saying? But it's still something that somebody who was scared, who didn't feel they could win a fight, would create. So that was a good panel. Then I did a cosplay panel, and it was cool because I brought my Baba cosplay, and I did Baba, and you know, the panel was light. It was just me and a sister that was cosplaying, and her husband. And I'm really bad on names, but I'll find them all, and when I tag them in the pictures, I put their names on them. But the husband was the moderator, and it was really good. And it was just that, the cool thing is we got a chance to talk a lot, and I started off the panel in character. When they tell you cosplay is about playing that character. So you dressed up as Iron Man, you better know everything about Iron Man. Your name is Tony Stark for the day. So I'm dressed up as Baba, so I talk like Baba for the first, to introduce the character. And then, I took the mask off and I explained how I made it, and it was really cool. And the sister did the same thing. She was really good. She is an engineer, and so she, a mathematician or an engineer, it might be both. She made a robot remote control car, and to go with her cosplay. So that was really cool. So the other thing that was really the end of it for me in terms of panels, because Dragoncon, like New York or San Diego, I haven't been out to Chicago. There's a lot of things going on. What I like about Dragoncon is they probably have the most panels of any comic book convention. For years, I've been going, for maybe 8 years now. Dragoncon is the most impressive. They have a apocalyptic track where they talk about nothing but the post-apocalypse and apocalypse, how it's going to happen, how the end of the world going to happen. They have a sci-fi media where they talk about nothing but movies all day for the 4 or 5 days of the convention. They have, like I said, the diversity panel, military sci-fi, military horror, urban fantasy, urban horror. Gosh, there's just so many tracks. Science fiction literature. You know what I'm saying? So it's all that. I think they have a Star Wars panel, Star Trek one, Star Wars one, all day, every 4 days. So they're talking every dimension, thinking of panels being every 2 hours, So it's an hour and a half or an hour, and in between that, it's all day. So I like it, but the challenge now, we got this push for diversity. And when you look around, you had about 5 different Black Panther panels. Everybody's talking about diversity. On top of that, you may have 8 diversity panels. Sometimes they you had to miss something else because just you need to get to that panel. And of course, it's 85,000 people. So, and Dragoncon doesn't do a convention center. They do 7 or 8 hotels. So you have to go in between 3 or 4 hotels to get to every panel. And talk about wearing comfortable sneakers. Woo! But that's the same thing you run into in San Diego. So if you're going to go to a top convention, you got to be prepared to wear comfortable shoes. But anyway, that was cool. I went to the diversity panel in the military sci-fi. I went to the diversity panel in media. That was good. So it was really cool. I got a chance to do that. I ran into the writers that I wanted to. As you know, I was talking junk about meeting, Rodney Barnes, ones that I've been talking about all the time. He wrote on the TV show Runaways. He's written Falcon, the last one where Falcon teamed up with Blade, and he wrote he's writing Lando now, the new Lando Calrissian comic book. So he was real good. I didn't get the chance to sit down and talk to people because, like I said, they busy. And Rodney's he's even at the convention working. He was a panel member. I don't even know if he was a full used up panel person. He might have just been somebody that they had on a few panels. But he was there and it was insightful. We talked for about 15, 20 minutes. And I'm an old person, so I like to have my meetings in person. Telephone and text are okay. I ain't hating on them, but my main meeting is in person because you get a chance to talk, you get a chance to flow with each other, and you say things, and you don't, I get tired of the phone or the earplugs up to my ears for a phone call. So I can talk longer than I can with in person. I can talk longer in person than I can with the phone. Anyway, he was insightful. Kind of told me what the price range is for writers. Told me how he got into business. It was eye-opening. I'm going to probably do a whole blog on how my business plan, or how I plan to proceed from here on out, and do a lot of thinking. So that was good. Rodney Barnes was really good. Shout out to him. Appreciate it. I'm a peer, so it's somebody that now does the same things that I want to do. Next was Stephen Barnes, who I've met him once before, but it feels like we've known each other years. First time I got a chance to meet him was a year ago at Necronomicon, and we actually met, and then lunch coordinated perfect. So I ended up going to lunch with him, and my family and my cousin Reg came over, and we all went out to eat together. And this time, Mr. Barnes, Stephen Barnes, invited me up to his room with a friend of his, and we got in depth on just sci-fi, not just science fiction, the world history, and sci-fi's role in the world. And I can repeat what I said and represent my thoughts, but I can only give you a little tip of what he said. And he says it all the time, so it's all over his blogs. But it was really interesting, and I think that's the real gems of these conventions. No, I didn't have a table, so I didn't sell books, but I did network. I have books with me, so every track. I was on the horror track before, so that the director there remembered me from 2 years ago. The science fiction literature track remembered me. I introduced myself to the military sci-fi. I introduced myself to the apocalypse. Man, there's so much. I may have to do this again, but shout out. I saw a female comedian of mine, Leanne Lord. I saw her at the American Black Film Festival. She's doing something. I don't know why she's at all these events. She definitely seems like she's in her comfort zone. I didn't know this before. When I worked in comedy in the 90s, I didn't go to comic book conventions, but when I started going in 2002, I didn't see her. So, wow. But now I'm seeing her, and God bless. Black Panther's bringing people out of their nerd closets, and I'm happy about it. So anyway, we'll talk again. Thank you for tuning in.